Haku, welcome to RedRocks, a show featuring the finest in Native music, arts, and culture. Today I'm really happy to welcome Carlos Reynosa, the renowned actor, model, musician, producer. Hello Carlos, how are you?
Very good, especially after that. Thank you.
So tell me, how are you doing? What projects do you have right now happening?
Well, I have a new album that's about to be released called Baby Blue. And I've been on a perpetual tour. And have a lot of things going on. I'm going to be at San Diego State actually this next week, and Orange County Powwow, and Palmdale Powwow, and Ridgecrest Powwow, and
really?
Yeah.
So how long have you been on tour?
Ooh, I don't know, about 16, 17 years actually.
16 or 17 years? Okay.
Yeah, if I don't tour, I don't make money.
That's right.
Not that it's just for that, but
right.
You know, if you're staying at home, you know, kind of hard as an artist.
Speaking of home, is that where you first became a musician?
It was, yes. Singing for relatives, you know, and friends.
And how old were you when you started to sing?
Well, they tell me I was really little, that I was always humming along. But I used to have a little transistor radio that was solar powered. And I used to play outside in the dirt, actually, and listen to my radio and sing all the songs. My mom was very surprised that I could sing every song on the radio.
You knew them all.
Knew them all. Could sing like Mick Jagger, or the Four Tops, or whoever, yeah, at a very young age, actually.
That's wonderful. So you were born and you grew up singing. At what point did you pick up a musical instrument?
Well, I got my first flute actually at Flagstaff Powwow a long time ago, but I didn't take it very seriously. But you know, I started late in life. I was always working with other musicians at the beginning and writing a lot of lyrics and melodies. But I started kind of late playing guitar. But I sure do love it now. That's for sure.
That's right. And this new album that you have out, Baby Blue.
Baby Blue.
Is that featuring your flute playing?
It is, actually. It's all flute. A lot of different flutes from different makers, actually, two that have passed on. It's kind of like a memorial album, actually.
So it's something that's very special to you, close to your heart.
Oh, very much. If anybody has it out there, they can read the little special dedication, actually, to my little sister.
Oh.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to get Baby Blue, what's the best way to get that CD?
Well, they could call me directly, or they can go to my website, which they'll probably end up calling me directly anyway.
And that's www.carlosreynosa.com.
Exactly.
I've seen the site, and it's wonderful. It's beautifully done.
Oh, thank you.
Lots of information about your own history, which is really diverse and interesting. And
thank you.
one of the things that struck me too is you have such diverse roots in so many places, culturally, historically. I saw that you're Yaqui, Mexica, Cherokee, Irish, French, German.
Just like a lot of Americans.
That's right. That's right. How has that influenced you professionally as an artist?
Well, it's made me very kind. That's for sure, because if you're a part of everything, you know, you really can't turn your back on anything.
That's right.
Yeah, it's nice. And especially, you know, doing a lot of things in LA, because there's so many different people and so many different tribes here that, you know, it's more open than, you know, traveling across the country where people are a little standoffish more. Even though, you know, I've traveled to a lot of the reses across the country as well.
And what's the reception been for you as you've traveled throughout Indian country?
It's been really good, especially after I start singing or playing.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes there, you know, can be. You know, I am awful light, you know. But once they realize this is what I do, you know. You know, some people hire me just to do that. Some people hire me just to speak, actually. You know, some of the universities.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's a little different point of view, you know, especially if you've seen how our people live.
Yes.
Most people do not. You know, they think that, you know, people are having problems in other countries. But if you've been to any of the, you know, some of the reses, we're in a, you know, desperate state in some places. That's for sure.
The third world is really right here in our own backyard.
That's right.
And I noticed on your website you have a lot of groups listed. You've given very generously of your time, your energy, and your talent to nonprofit organizations, charities, causes. Is there one in particular? The list is exhaustive. Is there one in particular, though, that is closest to your heart that you've been really active with?
Well, all the peoples that I've worked for really are close to my heart, that's for sure, because so many people are, extinction is forever. But I think one of the most gratifying is working with the wolf centers that have raised, I've raised quite a bit of money for them that are reintroducing wolves, whether it be on the Apache Res or the Nez Perce. But this country needs to see that again, because I know that there's coyotes from coast to coast now. And that's one reason.
Yes, that's right.
It only used to be in a few states. But like anything else that's out of balance, it's out of balance.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
We're going to have a lot of different types of folks watching the program, and if you had a message to offer to our audience about the state of things in Indian country, something you'd like to convey.
Gosh, I wish that we could show it. I wish we could be seen on TV. I wish we could let our feelings known. And not just from my point of view, but from elders' point of view, people who are land-based, who are still close to that land. It's very important. The American people are always focusing on one thing at a time, one little thing at a time, and finding everything out about it. But sometimes it's a little bigger than that, I'd say. And there's lots of things to find out, especially about our country.
Right.
A lot of people here in Santa Barbara or, along the California coast don't know how many Chumash names there are. Whether it be Malibu or Ojai or some of the other places, they have no idea. Not a single idea about it whatsoever. And some of the flutes that I play, people don't realize they've been played for thousands of years. And that's something important.
That's right. In fact,
everything is so transit and changing very rapidly.
Do you make your own flutes?
I don't, actually. I really like my fingers.
Right.
I got a few flute maker friends, they're like, hey, how you doing?
You need to keep those fingers, right?
I really like to play. I always like to think that, some of the flute makers who are players as well are making, I'm practicing and getting better. No, it really makes it possible for me to play a wide variety of flutes. I know that a lot of flute players are playing certain kind of flutes.
Yes.
And I'm playing out from, South America all the way up to the north, different kinds. Even a California flute that I play that really took me a long time to really get a copy of, hold a copy of from the Southwest. So a friend of mine, Guillermo Martinez, could copy one. Yeah.
And is it true that the indigenous flute in California for a time was actually outlawed?
Well, as I say, it's still outlawed. On the books, no different than
Legally.
maybe a recall on the books. I don't know. Yeah, lots of things. In the state are unknown, like, the apprentice law. A lot of people don't realize that here in California, slavery was abolished to the last state in the Union. If you gave a Indian child that you basically, kidnapped from the mountains, a Christian home, you could have servitude until they were 35 years old. And I think that was until about 1908.
Very recent history.
It's very recent history.
Yes. And so through your music, through your artistry, through your expression, I think you're helping to give voices to that unspoken history that so many people have not heard about. Definitely,
especially when it comes to little kids or, some people are a little standoffish about some things, but sometimes people need to hear the truth. At the same time, not blocking them off from things or turning your back on them. That's the real key, I think that's why music really can transfer ideas, because it's done with a little bit of love.
Now we'll enjoy a musical selection on the flute by Carlos Reynosa.
and we're dreaming, and we're hoping for the people, for the people, for the people, it's for the people. It'll be alright, it ain't that bad, it'll be alright, it ain't that sad, no it ain't that sad, depend on me, I'll depend on you. We are the people, me and you. Yes, we are the people, me and you. It'll be alright, it ain't that bad, it'll be alright, it ain't that sad, no it ain't that sad, keep on searching, seek the truth, keep on learning, the truth will free you. Truth will free you. Yes, the truth will free you. The truth will free you. It'll be alright. It ain't that bad. It'll be alright. It ain't that sad. No, it ain't that sad. Life is for living, and living with love. Love is for giving, giving with love. No matter what they say, no, there's nothing better, better than love. No better than love. It'll be alright. It ain't that bad. It'll be alright. It ain't that sad. No, it ain't that sad. No, not that sad. And we're wishing, and we're coping, and we're dreaming, and we're hoping for the people, it's for the people, for the people, for the people.
Some of the songs that are featured in your video.
Yeah, Life, Love, and Earth.
That's right, Life, Love, and Earth. And there's one, Follow the Children.
Follow the Children.
Follow
yeah.
the Children. And we have so much to learn from our children, from our young people.
Oh, that's for sure. I mean, we can't drink the water. Mm-hmm. Some places you can't breathe the air. I mean, there's a lot of things to learn from the children because they're the future. And I know you saw my website, and
yes,
you know, I get almost 100 emails a day, and a lot of them are little tiny kids.
Oh,
it really is sweet. If I feel badly, I just go and read some.
And it lifts you up.
It really does.
Oh.
It does. It really does. Because when I was in school, it wasn't the same. You know, there wasn't anything that I wanted to see on TV or anybody coming and speaking in front of our class, you know, about things I wanted to know about. You know. Was
that difficult for you growing up, not having visible Native role models in the news media?
Especially being different, you know. It was difficult, but I think that's what made me an artist, and not afraid what anybody thinks.
All right. Well, if there are other young people out there who want to continue their creative expression, their artistry, what kinds of words would you share with them that might help them along on their path as an artist?
Well, number one, they have to be true to themselves, and if they're worried about what other people think, it's never going to be. And if they're doing it for somebody else, they don't have their heart in the right place. You know? And I think that's the key, is to do what they feel is right, you know? And but to make money at it is a whole different thing, that's for sure. It's very difficult because there's lots of artists out there, and some people don't recognize their talent. And I happen to be one of the lucky ones. That's for sure. And I feel lucky in that way.
And what can people in our viewing audience do to support Native music and arts and culture?
Well, they could be interested in it, number one, and listen to it and buy it if they can, you know, because, I mean, obviously there's a lot out there, but if you're not listening to at least somewhat of your own music, it's going to disappear, like language.
That's very well said. And you're a new father.
I am a new father, yeah.
Yeah, look at that smile. You're a new father.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting, except he has no need for me right now.
That'll change very, very soon.
I hope so.
Well, really happy.
I need a drummer.
You need a drummer.
I hope he likes drums. God gives us all a song. That's how we know who we are. Everyone's got to be afraid. Hope for the children. Life is creation, or created is one.
I know that you started out your career in modeling, so you know what it's like to be in front of the camera. What made you go behind the camera?
Well, there was a guy named Fabrizio Gianni, and if anybody looks at the old spaghetti westerns, you know, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly,
Yes.
he was actually the cameraman, the cinematographer on those. And he was forced out by the mafia. And then he started working in fashion. He took a liking to me, and then I started assisting him, actually.
Okay.
And that's when I started shooting. He told me what to buy. I had some good-looking friends, so I took their pictures, and you know, I met Andy Warhol in Milan, and I showed him my little book at the time, and ever since then, I've been shooting.
So Andy liked some of your work, and he
did.
contracted you to shoot for Interview Magazine.
Interview Magazine, And from there, I went to Rolling Stone.
And you helped also launch some careers of famous...
Like Mila Jovovich,
Jovovich,
and Cameron Diaz and Hilary Swank. I was one of the first persons to shoot Johnny Depp, and yeah, many celebs I got to shoot in their early days as well as recently. Yeah.
And you're still shooting, you're still a
Oh
photographer.
yeah, that's for sure. Can't take that out of me. I just had an opening in Idlewild, and somebody came up to me and said, "Wow, how'd you get all these old pictures of these Indians?" You know, how'd you get these old pictures? And I go, "These people are living. These aren't old pictures." Yeah, because you know, some people have a different view of Native people. You know, they just don't think they exist sometimes anymore. You know.
Yeah. And I know
I was
the
very
images,
surprised at some of the comments, believe me.
Never cease to be amazed.
Yeah.
Or in your song, One Bright Day, you say there's more than meets the eye.
That meets the eye, that's for sure.
That's a good example of that. If you could tell us a little bit about this video that we're going to be showing some clips from.
Well, when I first made it, it was really off of a TV show I was doing, actually, in the early 90s. And just kind of developed into its own TV show, Life, Love, and Earth. And it's starring Steve Rivas and Irene Bedard. And at the time, they were really at the top of their game, and I had taken some photographs of them and videotaped them and asked them 3 simple questions about life, love, and earth.
I think love is the key to happiness, I really do. I don't think that you could be happy without love. And people try, but you can't. It's just not going to happen. You know, nothing else can really, money, power, fame, none of that can make you happy, but love will. Love will.
From the Blackfeet Reservation in Browning, Montana, born and raised for about the first 17 years of my life, and you know, came out to Los Angeles to be a movie star.
And that you are.
Yeah.
What do you think about life?
Oh, life. Life is something that is never supposed to be played with. Life is so precious that we have to understand that our life was given to us by the Creator, and that when I think of life, it's always about living that life in a beautiful way. And I try hard in my life to walk that road. It's not an easy thing in this world, because in this world we have all kinds of things, all kinds of distractions.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
sharing the gift of your music, your art, your photography. It's been a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us today on Red Rocks. I'm your host, Nikki Sandoval. Until next time.
whole issue of the Holocaust, I think, is really ironic because so much literature has been expended in the pursuit of exposing Hitler and the Holocaust and the terrible tragedy that occurred with the Jews, where 6 million people perished. What most people in this country fail to realize is that the model for that was here, was the treatment of our Indian people, was the model for Hitler. And he said so. He wrote it down. And he said that the prison camps here were the model for the prison camps. Also, the whole notion of turning the people against themselves within the prison camps and keeping them busy with each other so that they couldn't escape or didn't have other ideas was also born here, and he copied it. He thought it was a very good plan. And he really admired Andrew Jackson. So it's a little known part of history, but it is a reality. And nobody's ever really addressed it. Nobody's ever really talked about the Holocaust here. I mean, there were conservative figures, 19 million Indian people living in North America, 19 million. And by 1970, there were 260,000. They didn't move to Hawaii, or they didn't go to Sweden. Where did they go? They are gone. They were gone. Killed. Murdered. But 19 million people. Well, that's not a Holocaust.
I feel that this country doesn't understand historically what happened to its indigenous people. They see it on television and they read it in the books, but they really don't see it in the practical sense.
It points directly toward the racism of this country, of the white person, of the dominant society, of manipulation of environment, of its people. To us, to the white man, we're just kind of like a cactus on the trail. You chop it away and get it out of the way so you can keep walking down the trail and seeing what the beauty you want to see. I think that one of my goals is to have our people look at themselves and stop dancing for white people and saying we're so pretty. I want us to say, look what you've done to us. Look what you've taken. Look at the beauty we had and still have to offer you. And stop treating us like subhuman human beings, because we don't deserve it and we don't need it.
For more than 500 years, American Indian people have been subjected to the ever-changing whims of the white man, who with sword in one hand and Bible in the other, swept across this land like a plague of locusts. What the people of the United States did not know was that their so-called enlightened nation was setting an example that would be followed in the 20th century by some of the worst butchers known to man, including Adolf Hitler. In his biography of Hitler, John Toland wrote, Hitler's concept of concentration camps as well as the practicality of genocide owed much, so he claimed, to his studies of United States history. And he often praised to his inner circle the efficiency of America's extermination by starvation and uneven combat of the red savages who could not be tamed by captivity. In their efforts to deal with the original inhabitants of this land, the European and then the American governments tried many different approaches. First, they tried subjugation. Then, when that failed, extermination. And when that wasn't totally successful, then came the reservations. And the land set aside for reservations in the 1800s was generally the most worthless land that could be found. Indians were relocated to these lands for as long as the grass grows and the rivers flow, unless, like in the Black Hills of South Dakota, valuable mineral resources are discovered on that land, and then the Indians are uprooted and relocated again.
The enrollment issue originated with when the government set up reservations. They signed up the Indians who were assigned to that particular reservation. They took a roll, as it were, at that time. Everybody was given a number so that they could identify the people who were reservation-bound Indians, because reservations and the inception were no more than glorified concentration camps. Indians were forbidden to leave them. And so you were given your tribal identity right then and there by the United States government.
It's another labeling system. There probably was an importance for it at the time, to find out numbers of indigenous people. And now it's almost being used against us. And for a lot of the Native American, Indian, whatever you want to call them, don't have a number to rely on. And for assistance, for even being considered a part of us, of the rest of us, they're put out, put aside, pushed away, and saying, you don't qualify, even though they may have a higher blood quantum than myself. And so I don't see it where it's being used in a way to be beneficial to us. It's just a way of being controlled again.
When you take prisoners, you write down their names and give them a number. That way you can keep track of them. And it's a very simple process. It's done in every war. It's done in every time one group of people conquers another group of people.
When I was younger, I was extremely angry about it, Now, there's a sadness because things will never be the way that they used to be. It will never happen. So I just try and work as hard as I can to retain as much of my culture for myself, for future generations. But I'm never going to let them forget it. I don't think that this country will ever really heal itself until it answers the question of what it did to its indigenous people.
But confining Indians to reservations wasn't enough for many hawkish political and military leaders. Nothing short of total annihilation of the American Indian was acceptable in their eyes. Colonel John Chivington, known as the Fighting Parson and head of the 1st Colorado Cavalry, told a gathering of church deacons, "It is simply not possible for Indians to obey or understand a treaty. To kill them is the only way we will ever have peace and quiet." Later that same year, he led 700 soldiers on a surprise raid against a peaceful band of Cheyenne who were camped along Colorado's Sand Creek. Just before the dawn attack, he told his men, "Kill them all, children as well. Nits make lice." 400 people, mostly women, children, and elders, were murdered that day as an American flag and a white flag of peace flew high over the camp's tallest teepee. As tribe after tribe was successfully depopulated, demoralized, and imprisoned on reservations, political winds shifted and extermination began to fall out of favor. Assimilation became the new byword of a concerned citizenry, and so an educational model to make Indians into imitation white men was proposed. The centerpiece of this plan was the Indian boarding school system designed by former Indian fighter Captain Richard Pratt. His motto, "Kill the Indian, save the man," was the central philosophy which destroyed Indian families and societies by sexually violating and brainwashing generations of Indian children into believing that their language, culture, clothing, and their very identity was evil. In actuality, the effect of the boarding schools was far more devastating and far-reaching than its creators ever conceived. It is now recognized that the boarding school experience has affected multiple generations of Indian people with such symptoms as alcoholism, drug abuse, incest, sexual abuse, and other major dysfunctions. Almost every Indian person alive today, no matter how successful, carries the residual psychological scars of yesterday and must grapple with the question, when it's all over, will I be Indian or white?
I grew up with the signs, no Indians or dogs allowed, and had to abide by those signs, not being able to go into places. And so from the very time I was very small, I think that I learned that you had to be strong in order to be an Indian.
How do I define an Indian? That's a political question that's very difficult to deal with. Traditionally, the Apache people didn't have a definition of who was Indian.
I'm the only person that doesn't claim to be American Indian, because American Indian is only 500 years old, but I was here before Columbus. So that doesn't make me American Indian. So I'm a non-Indian, no, I'm a non-American. Today, America, nobody knows what America is, or nobody knows what Indian means. So the only Indian that was defined by Congress is primitive or North American Indian. But then what is primitive? Anything that grows by itself is primitive, but when you put a fence around it, it's not primitive anymore. So then what is Indian? 93rd Congress changed its tune to what is Indian to who is Indian, so only half would be regarded as Indian. So American Indian cannot be defined as a nation. So American Indian, as long as we're labeled American Indian will be written never, never, and never be recognized as a nation.
So I think there's another way to look at that whole issue of what is Indian and what, the word or what we call ourselves is en Dios, meaning in God, that the people that they encountered were godlike, were very pure. And that en Dios became Indio, which became Indian. We have lost so much blood, and so many of us have died over the name Indian, that he says we've earned it. And we've earned that name with our blood.
I find the word Native American offensive to me. It's like, here's a nation of people that enslaved my people, stole my culture, tried to beat it out of me, and now they're going to include me. And I don't mean to sound unpatriotic, I'm a veteran, but they're saying, now you can call yourself a Native American. I'm not, I'm an Aboriginal, indigenous person.
I know I'm not white. I tried to be white, and I couldn't do it, and they didn't want me. Because I'm not white. I'm culturally Apache. I relate to my tribe closer than any other human beings on this world.
I know who I am, and I know my blood. I don't have to read in a book that somebody wrote at some fort somewhere long back in history to tell me who I am. And I don't have to have a number to tell me that I am an Indian.
Well, to me, I don't care if I'm 164th or 1/300 and whatever, or what, or 1/1000 something. There's a lot of our little kids that are, they could be 4 different tribes. And, well, now, which one of these means more to you? There's one of them there that means a lot more to you than the others, I feel.
Being Indian is not being part. If you're Indian, you're Indian. You're not just,
That's right.
you know, a part white or part Hispanic or anything else. You're Indian because that's how you feel. When you grow up and you have an Apache mother or Comanche or whatever, if she's 15 tribes, but she sings the lullabies to you of whatever tribe she feels, she knows, then you're going to feel the dominance of that in your life. It's kind of like that's going to be your choice.
As Indian people, we have the responsibility to care for our own, to care for our young, take them in no matter what blood they have. If they're ours, they're ours. That's a simple answer. You know, you can't say, you aren't enough of me, so find your own way. That's not what it's all about. We brought them into this world.
So what happens when this young guy comes up to the drum and he looks black and he says, my father is such and such and my mother is such and such and I'm Indian? What do you say? And I want to learn the song. What do you say to him? And he said, you better make a place on the drum for him and have him sit because he's one of us.
My mother was only half Apache, but that's always, I've never felt like I was anything but Apache. We've always, because my father was always singing and always teaching us about Apache, so I felt like we were Apaches, and that's all we were. And I think my mother felt that way too, because she never said anything about being white. It was always Apache, everything she did. She made dresses and she beaded and made purses and all kinds of things, and she made those, and they were Apache. And that's what she wanted to teach us, to dance Apache, to sing Apache. And that's what I'd like to give to my children, to help them to realize that they're Apache. And one of the things we went to was something in Oklahoma, and there were all these people in their minks, you know, and their tuxedos and their formals and everything. And my daughter asked me, she said, Mama, how do you feel? You're wearing an Apache dress, you know, and all these other people are all dressed up. I said, I feel like I'm the most beautiful person here. I said, because I'm Apache. And that's the way I feel.
Somebody asked me one time, what is it like being a Native person, and especially being a person of mixed blood? It's a constant explanation of my culture. I mean, I'm totally amazed at how much the non-Indian population knows about my existence.
As far as tribal identity is concerned, this is for many years, back in the times when this hatred and hostility about American Indians in our own country was so prevalent that many people who left the reservations, Native people who left the reservations, hid their tribal identity so that they could be accepted by the dominant society. Because Indians were being relocated to the cities by the thousands to empty the reservations so that the termination policy could be effected, we suddenly had an explosion of urban Indians. The urban Indians oftentimes did not, once they had children, they would not enroll them with their own tribe. They didn't take the time or the effort, or, as one Indian said, what's it worth to be an Indian?
In the 1950s, the federal government instituted yet another new Indian policy known as termination. The purpose of this policy? To eliminate tribal governments and tribal lands, along with any vestige of tribal identity, so that the Red Nation would become part of America's great melting pot. A major part of this program launched another relocation campaign which offered training, jobs, and a part of the American dream to any Indian who would leave the reservation and move to the city. What most Indians who signed up for the relocation program found instead was isolation, alienation, and further disintegration of their culture and identity. And so this policy became one more chapter of the American Holocaust. But relocation is not a dead policy of the distant past. It is an active policy of the present day. By order of the U.S. government, more than 12,000 Navajo people have been forced in the last 25 years to move from their traditional homelands on Big Mountain in Arizona, to be resettled one more time on land nobody wants, contaminated desert bottomlands of the Rio Puerco, downstream from the largest radiation spill in American history. The reason for relocation this time? The discovery of one of the largest coal deposits ever found in North America. The most recent law which strengthened and accelerated this forced removal was introduced by Senator John McCain and signed into law in 1998.
Because as Indians, we're not pulling together. We're so fragmented, and still that's the white way, to break us up, make us weak. And we are strong, but we're so far apart from one another and can't come together on the issues. We'd just as soon go their way and say, oh, you take care of it.
We exclude, cut out, don't let in. Where is that tradition? What's that tradition from? It's from Europe. So we're being good white people when we do that, when we're being exclusive, but we're not being what our ancestors were.
This world loses 6 million Jewish people, and the world feels sorry. The world loses 50 million indigenous people in this continent, and the world doesn't care.
It's ongoing. And I say that with a great deal of sadness because a lot of the times the Holocaust is perpetuated by our own. And it's not necessarily the outsiders. I mean, we've learned our lessons well. We've learned how to be divisive. We've learned how to take the tools of colonization and use them on ourselves. And we've done that very well, thank you.
The Holocaust goes on today. People are dying all over the world. There are Geronimos all over the world fighting for their people. Dying sad.
All I know is all these years of what Western civilization has tried to do to indigenous people that we still endure.
I'm proud of my people, and I'm proud of who I am and what they did and what they stood for. We've survived. No, we've always survived, and we're still surviving.
Wash my spirit up to the mountain to purify my soul. Dance to the sun to pray for the ones who can't help themselves no more. I'm guided by my vision walking in beauty. Our children are sacred. When it's all over, I'll still be Indian. No matter what you do, I'll still be strong. When the smoke cleared, I was still dancing. When the smoke cleared, I was still standing. And General Sheridan said, the only good Indian is a dead one. And the white man's digging up our grave. Put us on a reservation, took our land away. They say no Indians or dogs allowed, and the white man's dancing on our graves. They brought Jesus to us, they brought us the cross, they brought us hunger and disease. Ah, this American Holocaust. Try to take my medicine, try to take my soul, try to take my song, and the white man's still dancing on my grave.